One of the great things about parables is that they grow on us and grow in us and grow with us, for that matter. How they speak in different ways, in different times and to different situations. How they mess with us as we try to sit with them for our context, 2,000 plus years and half a world away from their context. Take the story we've heard today, the parable of the talents. I'm sure that the vast majority of times I've heard that, it's been somewhere in and around a stewardship service, right next to the fragment of 2 Corinthians that says how the Lord loves a cheerful giver. Once I heard it preached on in the context of a baptism service, and that was different. We heard the parable itself quite differently. Probably neither of those contexts was in Jesus' mind as he made up the parable and told the story. Nor was it in Matthew's as he remembered it for his community, perhaps 4, 5, 6 decades later. But I think, however, wherever and whenever we hear it, there's a couple of unifying statements that we might hear in it. It's about what we do with what we have, and in the way and the faith of Jesus, there's enough. The end. Okay, not the end, but it could be. This parable is about talents, but not in the way we use that word today, not in the sense of natural abilities. In Jesus' day, a talent was a unit of money, quite a substantial one. And this is a story about money. But it seems that Jesus and later on Matthew had more on their mind than just money in the tangible sense. It seems to have had a symbolic and a spiritual function as well within the flow of Matthew's gospel narrative. Now, life in some ways was simpler in Jesus' day. We know that, but let's not be fooled. They knew about money, about economics, and about the power that went with wealth. And as Jesus' a story of the labourers in the vineyard reminds us, there was always a sidelong glance at what others had and a concern that others might be doing better than us. People knew about business and profit and the power of money. It could be an emotive topic, just as it can be today. Perhaps you're like me and can remember meetings, including church ones, where it's all going swimmingly and then the finance conversations start. And it shifts from going swimmingly to, can I say, drowningly? Jesus deliberately uses money because money gets attention. Becomes a way for him to talk about what can be achieved. But as I said, I believe the image of money functions in two ways in this parable. A practical way and a symbolic one. And I think the message behind the story, however we read that, is similar. Clearly, Jesus was interested in how people used their wealth for a wider benefit than simply themselves. We see that when we look at stories like the man who built bigger barn to store his wealth and promptly died. We see it in the story of Jesus and Zacchaeus. We see it in the story of his anger at the moneylenders in the temple, sort of ripping off people who came to make their sacrifices. Jesus was interested in money and in how it was used, what we do with what we have. Money also symbolised a powerful and a dynamic force in people's lives, the life of God's Spirit within and around us. Now that's not my original idea. I don't want to claim credit for it. It comes from Professor Bill Loader. And I share it with you because it made profound sense to me when I read it. And because it's important to honour our teachers. Professor Loader puts it like this: here, money is an image for what is potent in the kingdom and for the kingdom. It may also be seen as a way of talking about the Spirit, or at least about the life of God within us. It is slightly missing the point to think it's talking about how we use our various natural abilities in the modern sense of talents. It has more to do with how we allow the life of God to flow in and through us, because it is powerful, like money. Now, if this sounds a bit strange, I encourage you to sit with it for a bit. The symbolic notion doesn't diminish the practical conversation about money. It's still about what we do with what we have. And in some ways, it seems to me that it makes it more powerful in affirming that our material life and our spiritual life are not separate. They are the same thing. So let's hear those words from Professor Loader again. Here, money is an image for what is potent in the kingdom and for the kingdom. It may also be seen as a way of talking about the Spirit, or at least about the life of God within us. It is slightly missing the point to think it's talking about how we use our various natural abilities, talents in the modern sense. It has more to do with how we allow the life of God to flow through us, because it's powerful, like money. And he goes on to talk about this in the context of Matthew's community and the way that he, Matthew, remembers the story for them. I quote again: "There is a sting in the tale of the parable. The person who refused to let the money work identifies his fears. Fear of being abandoned seems to motivate burying the talents." Matthew's community might think of the controversy over the expansion of the gospel into the Gentile world, and the refusal of some people within his community to accept that the doors should be flung open, recklessly as they see it. For them, for that small group, God is misbehaving again, and they can't believe it, and they refuse to support the adventure. In typically Matthean style, says Loader, the text promises only damnation for such lack of trust. Ouch. In this way of thinking, the talents of Jesus' parable become a way of thinking about and living the grace-filled life of God within the world. The first two servants deal with this and work to enhance the presence and the life of that grace. The third sits on it. Not completely clear why. Perhaps he's afraid of losing what he has, or perhaps he doubts that there's enough grace to go round. The reason he gives is his doubting about the motive of the master. Is this simply a case of everything is always someone else's fault? Or is there more to it? We don't know exactly, and it's a story. But if that bit's strange, we might find that follows about those who are given more getting even more, and about the wailing and gnashing of teeth downright uncomfortable. It seems to me that Matthew would consider that a good result. We might want to think of judgment in different terms, and I certainly do, and that's okay. But I think that still leaves us with the core of what we have in Matthew's story. It matters what we do with what we have, and in the way and faith of Jesus, there is enough. I want to finish with another story. Unlike the Missouri story last week, this one isn't my own. It concerns the US writer and humorist Erma Bombeck. And it's probably less of a story than a reflection, but it's good anyway. At the end of a newspaper column on March 10th, 1987, Bombeck wrote these words: "I always had a dream that when I am asked to give an accounting of my life to a higher court, it will go like this. So, empty your pockets. What have you got left of your life? Any dreams that were unfulfilled? An unused talent that we gave you when you were born that you still have left? Any unsaid compliments or bits of love that you haven't spread round?" And I will answer, "I've nothing to return. I spent everything you gave me. I'm as naked as the day I was born." It's about what we do with what we have. And in the way and faith of Jesus, there is enough. Amen.